get your priorities right, it is not just intellectualizing, it is not just the scriptures or how well you learned your scriptures, but to recognize the living spirituality and then casting your scriptures on the side, throwing it aside. That is real Panditai. He has got his priorities right. So we met these kind of Pandits, but we don't stop there. We also meet Pandits who are strongly antagonistic towards Ramakrishna and who try and put him down all the time. And one said, you see, you talk about, but you need money and you can't just discard money, and the fact that you do, this is a second kind of Pandit. When this second kind of Pandit interacts with Ramakrishna, the language Ramakrishna is very sharp. You see, these Pandits, they soar very high, like the vultures, and yet their eyes are fixed on the carrion, dead bodies on the ground. They talk very high things, but their minds are full of lust and full of love for money. They can never get out of it. They talk high things, but their minds are colored in this particular manner. They can never realize or respect this higher vision of spirituality, which allows you to rise above lust and money, greed. So he said, these are the second. We had lots of them. Ramakrishna would smile and carry on, but he would not get easily agitated by their kind of arguments and their mannerism. But as I'm just showing you the two types of Pandits, why is it necessary to comment like this? You see, we live in a world where sometimes these Pandits can have an upper hand. You know what they do? They will selectively quote from the scriptures things which will suit their own requirement. Selectively quote from the scriptures. So the sense of perspective that is required is sometimes seriously missing in the Pandits. They are really blind people. It is really the spiritually enlightened one who can really decide which scripture to be pulled, what parts of the scripture to be pulled out and how it should be interpreted, not the Pandits. And this is visible in the story of Ramakrishna. So these two kinds of Pandits kind of interact. The story becomes more colorful. Remember when I did this earlier session, I said, because this Ramakrishna was so established in God, and one day he even smacked Rani Rasmani, the owner of the temple, saying, hey, you can't think of your court case in the temple, think of Mother Goddess, smack. And so he's gone completely nuts, and he's not sane anymore, he's become insane. And the reason why he's insane is because he's celibate. So they took him to the house of ill repute. Remember, I did the story. And this Ramakrishna, in this, kind of establishing God realization, was taken to this courtesan called Lakshmi Bai. The moment he faced Lakshmi Bai, he put his hands together, oh mother, you are here too, and bowed down to her. Yes. So this Lakshmi Bai, who is a prostitute, came running down to Mathur Babu and this Banej and said, look, what are you trying to do? Trying to ruin us? Now they are prostitutes. They are telling, why are you trying to ruin us? You are sending us a holy man and trying to tempt him. This is terrible. Don't do that to us. They are telling them, being a prostitute is not a problem. This is business. But this thing is not right. So this thing didn't work. But it didn't stop there. Let me tell the story, gives a different color. In the same manner, when Ramakrishna at a very young age had gone to his village, his parents said, oh God, he's losing his mind. All this time, Mother Goddess. Only way to make him sober again is to get him married. So at a very young age, he was married off. And somehow he didn't mind. He just got married and came back to Dakshineshwar. And then now, at the age of 18, the wife comes to the temple to see her husband. Her name is Sharadamani. She comes to the temple. Ramakrishna welcomes her. Now you might wonder, what is happening? Why is this highly celibate, a sannyasi, going to interact with a wife entering the stage now? What is going to be the link here? Didn't I tell you, Ramakrishna comes with tremendous amount of reconciliation. Reconciliation between bhakti and jnana, reconciliation between dvait and advait, reconciliation between grahastha and sannyas, householder and a renunciate. That reconciliation is visible in his life, and this is how it unfolds. Let me very, very clearly tidy up this thing. Ramakrishna had no physical relationship with his wife ever. Well documented, so there is no mischief here. And yet the wife comes, and she asks a very blunt question of this Ramakrishna. He said, how do you see me? And he replies, look at the reply. He says, The same mother that I worship in the temple, the same mother is sitting in front of me and massaging my feet now. And the woman was taken aback. What language, what words. This Ramkrishna throughout his life always called his wife, addressed his wife, never as tu in Gujarati and same in Bengali, which means singular, but as thou, tame. Now you see, if the rest of us householders here wish to experiment on this, it's very risky, especially when you get visitors. If you start addressing your wife as tame, you will have fireworks afterwards. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let me go back. He always gave her that highest respect, that dignity, and yet there was no physical relationship. The wife lived in a separate room, which is just across the courtyard. I've seen the room. It's literally 4 feet by 6 feet room, hardly room to move. She just stayed there, cooked food for him, served him, and looked after him for his rest of his life, throughout his life. This is the role. You see, what is happening is this. This is something unique that is visible in the story of Ramakrishna. He says, do not treat marriage as a license for lust. After the birth of 1 or 2 children, treat your wife not as an object of enjoyment, but as a spiritual companion. Raise her level, do not see her as an object. Give her that dignity, see her as a spiritual companion. But again, you see, it's so gentle. He says, after the birth of 1 or 2 children, now your view of your wife must change dramatically. Look, let me tell you why it is so necessary and important. You see, the greatest thing that ties us down as this physical being, as a material being, is this physical attraction that we have for other gender. Unless we can rise above this physical attraction, there is no chance. We are not spoiled sports. There is no chance you can really experience yourself as a spirit. So it is necessary to rise above this strong physical attraction. And the way that you do it is this. Rather than look at the other person as a body, if you look at the other person as an individual, breathing through that body, individual, when you see a person not as a material manifestation, but as the spirit, lust or attraction for the body will disappear forever. You see the marvelous message visible in the story of Ramakrishna. In modern times, it is telling a modern householder, house is fine, a householder's life is fine, but raise your eye level. Now no longer view your wife as an object of enjoyment. See her as a spiritual companion equal to you. When you give her that dignity, see how your life is transformed. You bring spirituality in your routine life. So now it is not that either you are a grahasti or you are a sannyasi. You can be a grahasti and yet live a life of renunciation. Raise your level. This was not visible with any other teacher in the past. It's visible in the story of Ramakrishna. He's giving a prescription for the householder. Raise yourself up. This is a unique feature of this Ramakrishna, and the story of this mother, this Sharadamani, in a way reflects this unique feature that you treat your companion not as just object, physical, but as an individual, a spiritual being who is going to stand by you for spiritual progress. Lift your vision. This is the story of Sharadamani. The story goes on. Now this Ramakrishna is ready. You see, he's mastered everything. All the tools are ready. And now he wants to give out his spiritual message, if you like, his spiritual inheritance to the rest of humanity. He needs carriers, he needs ambassadors of his message. He would climb up to the terrace in the Calcutta temple and look at Calcutta, and with his heart kind of as if a wet towel is being kind of squeezed, his heart will be squeezed like that. He will scream and say, "Oh my dear children, where are you? Where are you, my children? Come here. I am fed up of listening to this worldly talk. Come here. I want to talk of the highest things. Where are you, my children?" You see, the cry goes out, and now the various children of Ramakrishna begin to arrive. Let me just touch on one other aspect. Sharadamani's mother was a bit annoyed that how dare I marry my daughter off to this man who is mad, She will never have a happy married life and no children. And Ramkrishna heard about it, so he sent the message through his Shardamani to his mother-in-law. He's a gentle fellow. Tell your mother-in-law, tell your mother, he said, that a day will come when thousands and thousands of people will scream mother at you until your ears ache. That many people will call you mother. Tell her you will have more children than you ever wanted. And then Shardamani recalls in her words, he said, this has come true to be true. Let me say something else about Shardamani. You see, Ramakrishna is a hard taskmaster. If you ask him for this and that and other things, he will not give you that. He will give you the highest, not what you want, because you normally want the lowest. What do we want normally? We want big house, big car, lottery, a beautiful husband, a handsome husband, and a beautiful wife. This is what we cry for. He won't give you that. He's a hard taskmaster. Last person you ask for this thing is Ramakrishna. But there's a soft corner to Ramakrishna. That's this Shardamani. If you appease Shardamani and say, please tell him, he doesn't listen to me, then you can get your way. I'm telling you the secret. The reason why it is so is, let me tell you a real example. After Ramakrishna had passed away, his disciples were actually at nothing, no place to stay, no shelter, no food, no money. They were wandering around in the streets of Calcutta, feeling dizzy without kind of water or food and falling about, fainting. They were all toppling all over the place. And Shardamani is looking, this is terrible. These are Ramakrishna's children. They don't have a shelter, no place for sustenance. This is terrible. And she said, oh Ramakrishna, you can't do this to your children. Give them a shelter, give them shelter. And in no time, the whole thing, Beluru Math and Ramakrishna mission came into being. So all the disciples of Ramakrishna, we know where to go. Leave Ramakrishna alone, catch Shardamani. Soft corner. Just touching on some interesting aspect of the story of Shardamani. Anyway, now Ramakrishna is asking, screaming, oh my children, come to me. The first people who started visiting Ramakrishna were actually householders. They were not youngsters. Youngsters will come in the next episode. The first two householders who came, the first one, very famous, is Dr. Ram Prasad. Now, Dr. Ramachandra Dutt. Dr. Ramachandra Dutt was a very famous physician, extremely good lecturer, and a crass atheist. He had decided that everything about the world can be explained in terms of science, rationality, and this need of relating to religion and spirituality is outdated, is superstition. So Ramachandra Dutt was the crass, rank atheist, and he's the first person who visits Ramakrishna. He comes with his cousin brother called Manmohan Mitra. Both these cousins are atheists. So the first visitors, they have a doctor, and an atheist to add on, they visit Ramakrishna. Look at the story, how they come. You see, they thought we'll find somebody who is kind of shaven head with a little tuft of, little kind of choti at the back and kind of wearing all these tilas and sitting, with all the orange robes. They say we arrived at about 1 p.m. at Dakshineshwar, and we entered into came near Ramakrishna's room. It was locked. We didn't feel right to knock on it. Maybe there's somebody was sleeping, so we sat around. In no time, a man opened the door and invited us in. We went inside and we were surprised. It looked so ordinary. Look. Nothing, no marks, no ornaments, nothing, no sign of religion anywhere. One piece of white cloth. This is how he was dressed. Let me tell you about the room. It's interesting to really make the room come alive. It's a medium-sized room. It has got one bed and one little wooden bedstead, like a wooden bench, very uncomfortable, and a little stool where Sri Ramakrishna would sit. Wooden stool. There's nothing, no cushions, nothing. There was a carpet or a mat on the floor where some devotees would sit on the floor sometimes, and Ramakrishna would sit on the wooden bedstead and talk to them. This is the room they enter. Now, the moment they enter, the first thing that drew their attention is that this man is so simple, so guileless. There is no other external show of religion. That impressed them. This is the best way to impress an atheist. Don't make any show of religion. Then they said, he's a normal man. So they could interact with him straight away. They felt very comfortable with him. Now you see, this Ramachandra Dutt, one of his daughters had died recently. She was grieving inside. He was trying to resolve the idea, can there be a God? Look at my painful condition, there can't be a God. And this is visible when the Ramkrishna meets and he knows exactly what is his state of mind, what is his background and where he is going. He is aware. So he attracts both the brothers and says, both the cousins say, come here again and again. And he talks very nicely, sweetly, gently to them about the idea. The first question Ramchandra Das says, can God be seen? Look, this is the cry of the heart. He wants validity, an atheist looking for validity of God. Can God be seen? Ramkrishna says, yes, he can be seen, my boy. He can be seen more clearly than I can see you. See the language of his spiritual experience. This was very exciting and interesting. And yet these are atheists. They're not going to be easily taken in by this kind of sweet talk. They go away, but they are hooked. They are hooked by the personality. The simple, guileless personality of Ramakrishna draws them, not high philosophy. This is what draws them. They are struggling with the idea of God. One night, you see this Manmohan Mitra, when he's trying to visit Ramakrishna, while he's trying to go, his family member trying to stop him, said, look, if he goes and sees that man again and again, he's likely to become a sannyasi, renounce. We can't let him off. See, your members in your family will not let you off that easily. And the moment Manmohan Mitra goes, Ramakrishna is standing around looking very agitated. He said, what can I do? If a devotee wants to come here and the family member wants to stop him, what can I do? What can I do? And Manmohan says, he's talking about me. This is what used to happen all the time. Again and again he said, I'm very annoyed. This man wants to make spiritual progress and the family members are holding him back. What can I do? He would talk like that. He said, he's talking about me. Manmohan says, he's talking about me. How can he read my mind? How does he know what is happening in my home? He knows. Now this Ramachandra Dutt one night went to sleep. I told you the story, I'm trying to make it as less mystical as possible. I can't help myself. One night, he's about to go to, when he goes to sleep, he has a wonderful dream. In the dream, this Ramachandra Dutt sees him taking himself a bath in a pond that he likes. He comes out and he sees Ramakrishna waiting for him. And Ramakrishna gives him a mantra to recite and tells him, recite this 100 times every day. You see, you get many kinds of, all of us get dreams surely. But when you get this kind of spiritual dream, nobody else to come and authenticate it. You know there's something special has happened to you. You feel that this was real. When you wake up, you feel excited. I'm sure if you are lucky, we have had such dreams where spiritual personalities appear in our dreams. And we know these are not ordinary dreams. So the Ramchandra Dutt was very excited. This is a marvelous experience. This is good, wonderful. And he went rushing to Ramakrishna and said, look, I saw you in the dream and you gave me the mantra. Ramakrishna said, shush, keep quiet, practice. And he's practicing. While this is happening, he's still not getting any spiritual experience at all. So this Ramchandra Dutt is getting more and more agitated, very worried. One day he says, let me test my mantra. He came at the middle of the night to Dakshineshwar temple. This is a magical story. Middle of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, he sits on the porch outside Ramakrishna's room and recites the mantra quietly in his mind. Repeats the mantra in his mind. So let's see the potency of this mantra. In no time the door opens and Ramakrishna walks out and comes near him and sits next to him. Imagine you invite God and God comes walking out. A God-man comes like that. And then this kind of relationship becomes much more closer. He comes into Ramakrishna's room and Ramakrishna says, look, whenever you hear this word, he says, what do you want, my boy? You see a God-man telling you, what do you want? And Ramchandra Dutt recalls in his diary, he said, I thought, what should I ask for? Money, standard stuff for human beings. Money. He said, nah. Mystical powers, siddhis. He said, nah. He said, I leave it to you. That was the wisest thing he could have done. I leave it to you what you want to give me. And Ramakrishna said, okay, give me my mantra back. I'm not joking, this is a fantastic story. Give me my mantra back. How do you give your mantra back? So Ramchandra Dutt bowed down and repeated the mantra and said, I'm offering it like a flower at your feet, your own mantra back. Now let me tell you what was going on. You see, you all go in the internet and you do bookings, theater tickets, and they say print it out. And then when you go to the theater, you have to present the ticket, and then you can enter the theater and see the show. This is what Ramkrishna had done in the dream. He had given the ticket, and now he's saying, you want the show? Give me the ticket back, and you can enter. He asked for the ticket. He said, give the mantra back. You say, why he's asking for the mantra back? Because he's done his job. You are now going to enter the realm of the spirit. Give the mantra back. Ramchandra said, I don't know. I bowed down and said, okay, repeated the mantra in my mind, said, offer it to you like a flower at your feet. He said, the moment I did that, I felt a thrill. I went into a super conscious state. And in that state, Sri Ramakrishna said, now, what do you want? He said, I want to see my chosen deity. They don't tell us which chosen deity, because all of us, this is secret. The way we like to think of God is a very private thing. I wish to see my deity, the object of my worship. Ramakrishna said, look at me. And Ramchandra says, when I looked, what more? I hit the jackpot. I saw my deity smiling and standing in front of me. His theater ticket had been passed. He had that wonderful experience. You can see his life is transformed. You see, when we achieve the thing that we starve for, we are searching for, God experience. And here is this man who is dishing it out in the form that you like. Take it, my boy, take it. And he gives it away like that. Now the life of Ramchandra Dutt is changed forever. He becomes one of the greatest devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, becomes one of his great providers, continues to visit. And in fact, it is this Ramchandra Dutt, you may not know this, who built the first temple devoted to Ramakrishna. It is not Belur Math, it is not Dakshineshwar, no, it is Ramchandra Dutt who built the first temple. It is Ramchandra Dutt who wrote down the story of Ramakrishna. And the first publication did not come out from the Ramakrishna mission, came from Ramchandra Dutt. So this man was kind of thrilled by the spiritual experience of this master, in his own way, repaid in his own little way, built a little temple, made the first publication, made Ramakrishna famous in the world, in the marketplace of Calcutta. So this is how Ramchandra kind of becomes closely linked as the first disciple, a householder disciple, expressing the love of spirituality that becomes visible, comes to its fruition with this master called Ramakrishna. The story is not going to finish here. I'm just beginning to unfold the story of Sri Ramakrishna. The real players are yet to appear. Who are the real players and what part do they play? You see, these are householders. They are fine. But the dynamos of spirituality are the young blood who are searching for spirituality in the mode that suits the modern world. And these personalities, 16 of them, will appear as we progress in the story of Ramakrishna. Each one of them comes with a unique character. And you see, one of the unique features of this Ramakrishna was this. Whenever anybody came to visit him, any youngster or anybody, he would say, come here. What do you think of this? Even this is an ego-centered comment. He's asking, praise me or something. What do you think of this? He would say, he would never say me. He said, what do you think of this? And everybody will give some reply. Actually, do you know what was happening? Ramakrishna was measuring their depth. They were not expressing the idea of what Ramakrishna is about. Ramakrishna was checking them out. They would ask all the disciples, what do you think of this? Some would think, I think you are a very, a great saint of Dakshineshwar. Some say you are a God-realized person. Somebody say, I can't express, I don't have any words. All of them gave different replies, but in a way they showed up their character. Their capacity to absorb spirituality becomes revealed in the way they interpret or try and interpret Sri Ramakrishna. You see, this is a unique feature of this personality. He is like, simple, like a transparent glass. When you look at him, actually you see yourself, or your capacity of spirituality becomes visible. You never see him, but you see your own level of spirituality reflected in the way you interpret or you interact with this personality called Ramakrishna. And in the next few sessions, we are going to now explore these various youngsters who came into his fold, and how this marvelous ideas of spirituality, the broad vision of spirituality, became kind of, entered society. Let me finish with one particular parable that he gave, Keshav Chandra Sen, and you see the power of this parable and why it's so relevant in modern times. Keshav Chandra says, what is God like? He said, look, let me do a story. There was a chameleon under a tree, living under a tree. Various people used to see the chameleon and they said, one side is red, other side is blue, other side is green. And they couldn't come to any agreement. What is the color of the chameleon? What is its true color? A wise man who used to live under the tree told them, my friends, same chameleon, it is changing colors all the time. In the same way, the same God appears differently to different people and different religions. Same one thing. He has no color of his own. In a way, you color him with the color of yourself. This is the depth of spirituality. Let me touch on this. This is the idea that are going to become incorporated in the theology in this century. At the experiential level, when you experience spirituality, at the experiential level, all religions meet up. All the prophets I am declaring, and this comes from my master, all the prophets have the same experience, same kind of thrilling experience of spirituality. The moment they open their mouths and try and give it verbal expression, because they must express this experience, the moment they open their mouths, they use the framework that they possess to try and give expression to this wonderful spiritual experience. And this particular framework they possess in a way reflects the culture, the society, the history in which they belong. So this marvelous same experience seems to appear different. It comes through in different verbal methodology. Different words are used to give expression to the same experience. Let me just show you. You see Buddha. The spiritual experience he possesses, when he tries to give it expression, he doesn't talk of any God. He talks of enlightenment, just enlightenment. The same spiritual experience, when Christ gets it, what expression does he give? He says, my Father in heaven, like a super personality. The same spiritual experience, variety of different prophets have. Even though the experience is same, the moment they try and give it verbal expression, there is a variation. And the variation are the different religions of the world. This comes from Ramkrishna. So what he says is this is what he told Keshav. He said, Keshav, this ultimate reality is the same. That is absolute. But the pathways that you try and use to reach this ultimate are varied. And the pathways, all the pathways are relative. They are not absolute. See the powerful teaching. So if any religion claims some absolute status, they have lost the whole plot. The pathway the religion promote to become spiritual, all the pathways are relative because they have to relate to you. They can never be absolute. The destination is absolute, but the pathways are always relative. That is why they are different, and that's why they are not going to kind of sit well.